Welcome to 5 Stripe Weekly.
Seems like we don't have much to talk about this week, huh?
Nothing really that important really came up except for the fact that Tata Martino is officially leaving at the end of the season. But we got 3 points of the weekend and set some more MLS records as well. All that and more coming up.
Welcome to the show, 5 Stripe fam. I'm AJ. This is Tanner McLeod. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube, or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. Let's first get into the recap of the match where we saw the 5 Stripes tie the MLS points record at 69. We qualified for the CONCACAF Champions League, and we also broke the record for most wins in a single season. Of course, those are the positives of this match, but we also played without Miggy and Tito for the very first time, which is very, very difficult, as we saw. And yeah, that starting lineup looked like a 4-3-3. We had Escobar come back in. We had McCann come back in. And we also saw Carlton and Barco start as our forwards. So it was definitely a different look, but it was something that, yeah, I mean, it lacked a little bit of something.
Yeah, it was interesting at first. I didn't expect, I'm glad he managed to find a way to keep Gressel in the lineup. I didn't think it would be at the expense of Renowitz, which I think kind of shocked both you and me, the fact that he finally did get dropped. Not that he deserved it necessarily, but in a midfield three, I was surprised that he was the man to make way. I figured Gressel would move up to the right, but it was really nice to see Carlton included from the get-go to get those minutes. And he got 60-odd, pretty good minutes. Yep. I thought he did some good things in there. I still think he's a little bit off the speed of Major League, of the speed of Major League Soccer, but he'll get there. I mean, he's a young kid. Allow him, he'll get there. Escobar had a great game. I mean, I've been ragging on him all season.
Game of his season.
But by far the best game he's played, since he signed with Atlanta United, getting that beautiful curled left foot goal in the first half. And he could have had an assist to Joseph in the second half, just couldn't pull the trigger on the ball to square it. But aside from that, you could definitely tell that we were missing the influence of both Miggy and Tito.
Yeah, definitely. It was, something where we didn't have the pace on the counterattack. And so you see, Joseph Martinez kind of getting scraps a little bit, essentially. But, yeah, I mean, Joseph Martinez, he had a couple chances to really score. It was not in the cards today or that day.
I definitely expected him to take at least one of those. The first chance he gets in the first half falls into his left foot, but we've seen him score from that range with his left foot before. So, I mean, I kind of expect him to make that. His other chance you had, in the second half, he had a clear-cut chance where Darlington Nagbe just is controlling the ball with, some quick, short touches in the box, plays it into Joseph, who just can't get it out from under his feet and just scuffs it and hits it right at the keeper, and you just can't get it off. And he had a late penalty shout on, which was overturned by VAR, but on the whole, he was scrapping a bit, kind of like you said, feeding on those scraps. He didn't have that usual quick counter-attacking that you see when you have both Tito and Miggy in the lineup. He's kind of fallen into a bit of a slump, but all good strikers are going to have that. But he's still so involved in our play with his passing and dropping and his movement. I mean, I'm not worried about it. Is it frustrating? A little bit, yeah, but he's a great player, and he'll get things figured out, especially when he has his bloods, and Tito and Miggy back into the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. This is like the longest period that Joseph Martinez hasn't scored. But when he's on a purple patch and he's scoring in bunches, and so I think it's just a matter of him getting back into that. And as they say, form is temporary and class is permanent. It's very true with Joseph Martinez in MLS, at least. I mean, yeah, he has shown that he is every bit of class in MLS.
And he loves the big game as well. So when things get tight, I think he's gonna want to get on the score sheet this weekend. He knows what's at stake, especially with the news we'll get on to later with finding out Tata's moving on. These players are going to have some fire because they're going to want to win something to make sure they send him out right. And I think Joseph he's going to be there. He wants those goals, and I trust in him that he will find the back of the net either against Toronto or going into the playoffs. I have no doubts that he's the guy. He'll be fine, but it also helps him when he has those guys like Tito, like Miggy around him. And Barco, I thought he played okay. He finally got a chance to really start and be really involved with this game because you didn't have a Miggy in there. He did okay. He helped create that first goal with a great crossfield pass. Outside of that, he kind of faded strong in the second half, and by the time he was substituted, I couldn't really argue with that substitution to kind of kill the game off, bring a Renowitz on, and really settle things down. And, then you saw Julian Gressel move up to a more familiar role on the right side of an attacking three up there. And, I thought he could have taken a bit more chances in this game. I thought he really could have secured himself a position, you know, saying, okay, they're not here. It's my turn to really make some stuff happen. And I just didn't think he made enough happen for me in a chance against a bad team that I thought he really could have showed, you know, not just Atlanta United, but the rest of the league, what kind of a player he is. Mind you, he's still young, but I was a bit frustrated where, you know, I just felt like I was expecting a little bit more out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think what can be argued is that he's lacking kind of a consistent you know, match fitness. I mean, essentially he's been coming in as a sub or coming out and not really getting a run of games, and so he hasn't really gotten that flow either, and especially coming off of a 2-week international break, it's, you know, doubly hard essentially too. I mean, there's always a little bit of rust that comes in that might be a factor.
He's had a rough season though. I mean, from the get-go, you know, he gets that injury in preseason and he doesn't play for a while, then he gets into the team, then there was all the off-field issues. He's had a lot. I mean, he's 19, he's moving to a new country, he had, you know, a lot of personal things going on that, you know, we don't think about as fans because we expect them to just get onto the field and perform. But for a person that young, moving in a new country, speaking, you know, where you have to learn a new language and all this, it can be a lot. So, you know, I don't want to sound overly harsh on him because, you know, he hasn't really had the best chance to get off on a great foot this season. And I think moving into the future, we'll expect a lot more from him next season when he should be a fixture in the 11 because you'll have a player like McGee more than likely moving on. So we'll see, but I just felt this was a good game for him to maybe do some things. But, you know, on the whole, it wasn't a great result, you know, in the fact that we didn't play well, but we got the 3 points. And I think at the end of the day, when you're in a title race and you're trying to get across the line, as long as you get those 3 points, that's what matters, especially when you're missing 2 key players. Yeah,
I mean, we definitely ground out this result, but we definitely looked a little shaky at points, especially, having Lorenowitz dropped. I think we actually really needed him in this match, and I actually would have rather maybe seen Remedi, who I don't think had the best match in this one.
I thought he played okay, but you know, he's
not a little all over the place.
He was a little all over the place. He's not usually that specific role. He usually has Lorenowitz to rely on that, you know, dropping in the middle of that back three. And
so that's the worry.
The team looked a lot more comfortable when Larry came back on and Remedi moved back to his more usual position.
Right, and I think if Remedi gets a more you know, a run of games as the 6 sitting in between the center backs, then yes, but you know, it's one of those where he was you know, pressing pretty high, and then that leaves that middle pretty exposed, and that's really where we needed somebody to sit there to really. I think that's where our you know, our conceded goal came from. Essentially, you know, they kind of carved up our middle, and if we had somebody sitting there, I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but let's break down this this goal that's a little contentious because a lot of people think it might be offside, but you know, getting into it, essentially, I mean, you look at it.
It's just really a good ball that's played in, and you have Escobar who's trying to play the offside trap at the last second, and I can't blame him for trying to do that because Atlanta are usually pretty good at holding a back line. But when you're just a little bit off like that, then you have a ball go through and then you look silly in a sense, but it's just one of those risks when you're trying to play a line, you know, sticking to the edge of your 18. And it was a good ball, but as you know, when the ball goes in, he's absolutely onside for the first ball. The second guy is in line with him. He plays it forward, yes, but the guy himself, as long as he is in line with the guy that played the ball, he's not offside either. So the goal happens, and it's just one of those frustrating things where it's like, why did we make these mistakes? It feels like it's always a simple mistake where we mess up. But I think you're 100% right on. You know, if Lorenowitz is there, he's usually right in that position to clean that up. Yeah,
and so or you know, the chance isn't even gonna happen because he sniffs it out before it even happens. And so, I mean, it's one of those where I think we, you know, kind of predicted, we're gonna ship one goal, and there it was. It wasn't a Bastian Schweinsteiger, you know, banger from distance, but it was, I think, even worse. I feel like because we were carved open. So, and that's really what's worrying and why we're critical of this type of game is that. You know, we didn't look exactly the most comfortable in this match. We were overrun in midfield at times. We couldn't get the ball from Chicago Fire at points. It's just, it didn't look the most easy for us.
I didn't think the midfield had the balance that it traditionally should have because you have 3 players that want to get forward and want to do things. Obviously, Gressel, he's an attacker wherever he plays. He wants to get forward and get involved with the attack. Nagby's very similar. He wants to get higher up the pitch and get involved in the build-up.
We arguably played with 2 10s.
Yeah, and Remedi, he wants to press. He's a bulldog of a player. He wants to go out and press the opposition and force them to make mistakes, which is why I think he works so well in a midfield three with Nagbe and Larinowitz, because you have the athleticism and the dynamism of Nagbe and Remedi to push forward, push that back line and those midfielders for the opposition. But you also have Larinowitz being that steady, calming presence that can sit in the middle of midfield or drop back into a sort of a back three position and play those balls out and be that real anchor for the team. We lack that against Chicago, and I think that I understand why Tata went with the formation that he did. He wanted to be a bit more outgoing and a bit more attacking, and I can't fault him for that. It just didn't really come off to the degree we wanted.
Right.
We didn't create as many chances as we usually do, and the ones that we did, we just couldn't find that clinical edge to put them away and really put Chicago to the sword. And I think that's the most worrying thing about it, is that we were just a bit off. And you know, the penultimate game of the season isn't a time where you want to be a bit off, because you have one match left that you're going to have to win. You have to go on the road against a Toronto team you haven't beaten yet. Every game's been a 2-2 draw. So you know you have to go into that game winning, or hoping to God that Orlando City is going to do something for you. And I think if we're both being honest, we don't expect them to do anything but get absolutely railroaded by New York Red Bulls.
Yeah.
So, you know, they got to pick it up. But, you know, that being said, a lot of things have happened this week after the match, you know, with the manager. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens against Toronto this coming weekend.
Right, and you know, and Tata Martino, yeah, he was definitely you know, critical of the team after the match, as well as, you know, kind of pretty much hinting that he was you know, probably going to leave, and you know, turns
Talking
out
in the past tense and stuff.
Yeah, right. And but we'll get to that in a second. But his quote after the match was definitely very, very critical. He said, "At this stage of my career, I'm not satisfied with just getting the win if we haven't had a good performance. We know we need to compete for 90 minutes. You can't play a mostly good game and then have lapses where you lose control of the game. We have to make sure we are focused for 90 minutes in Toronto. Against them, we know it's going to be difficult, and we have to do our job for the full game." Completely agreed.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty harsh in a sense from the manager, saying that the players could not maintain their focus for the full 90. And I find that kind of odd in, you know, the last home game of the season, where you know, if results go your way, you could have potentially been lifting the shield that day, and to lack that certain edge, you know, that's interesting. But maybe that also lends itself into, you know, the news that's come out with Tata leaving, is because you're saying, you know, these guys, a lot on their minds. They don't know if he's staying or if he's going. They didn't know what's going on. They weren't able to keep that. So maybe by coming out being straightforward with this news now, they can get that focus back. Because I would agree with him. And, you know, that's what I love about the guy, is he is honest. And you have to appreciate that from a manager, because sometimes you get manager speak where, you know, they just talk around answers and give you a bunch of half-truths, and you're like, well, I don't really know what to parse out of everything they just said. But he was brutally honest and was straightforward, basically saying we weren't good enough. And I think that if you go back and you watch the match again, you would have to agree with him on that.
Yeah, agreed. And Michael Parkhurst had a couple words to say as well after the match. He noted after when he found out the New York Red Bulls score, he was saying, "When I was shaking the referee's hand after I did that, I looked up and I saw it was on the scoreboard that the New York Red Bulls had beaten the Philadelphia Union."
On a penalty.
Yeah, so it's one of those. It makes decision day very, very interesting now, and yeah, I mean, it's something that, of course, is great for the league in terms of optics, in terms of, you know, excitement, I guess. But for Atlanta United fans, it is a very, very worrying time, because having to rely on Orlando City for anything.
I've seen some people on Twitter saying, you know, if Orlando City gets a result, they'll buy an Orlando kit and wear it for a week. I am never putting on purple in my life. I have a very strong anti-purple belief here, and that stems mostly from the fact that I went to South Carolina and Clemson has the color purple as part of their thing, so I hate that color. But I would say some very nice things about them on Twitter and on the show if they were just, you know, get a result against them. But that's about the extent of I would go. That being said, I have absolutely zero hope whatsoever that horrible thing that is a club does anything helpful, especially at the expense of their rivalry with Atlanta United.
Yeah.
So,
but you know, comment below if you think that Orlando City can do anything against Red Bulls this next weekend. let us know in the comments below. But
if any of you are optimistic, I would want to know just what you're doing in life, because I need that optimism.
For sure.
Because yikes.
Indeed. But some closing notes on this match. It was really cool to see that 3 homegrowns were in the squad with Andrew Carlton, who started. You had Lagos Kunga coming in for the first time into the 18. Congrats to Lagos Kunga. That's awesome. And George Bello, of course, who criminally was not started, I think.
I would have really... I prefer him to start. I think we've definitely been over how much we think he should be our left back. And I think we'll talk about that more when we do our playoff preview about who should be playing at left back come playoffs. But also, I mean, he'd been playing for the U.S. under-17s.
Exactly. He played during the week.
Won them a tournament with a free kick. Yeah. He'd been busy. I don't think he's at the level yet where you want him playing that much football that quickly. So,
he's 16 at MLS level, match fitness wise. He had been coming in and out, essentially. Like,
he's only completed a full 90 once. So it's just maybe a bit too much too soon for him. That being said, I wouldn't mind seeing him in the lineup this weekend against Toronto. Even though that's a big shout and a big ask for him, I would much rather see him playing on the left than in McCann, because again, I think you get the whole package from him, and there's just no denying how talented he is as a player.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of the attendance, we broke some records there as well. Not the attendance on that match, but it was 71,812. But our season average was 53,002, which is incredible, and sets the record for that for a single season. And total attendance was 901,033. That's nearly 1 million, and
if we have a few more playoff games, we might get there.
Yeah, but at least for a single season, for a total attendance, that breaks the record as well. And so, you know, we're really doing some things as a fan base, and that's super exciting, because I think it's still, you know, the only way is up, because we don't really know what the ceiling is. And
I mean,
plus the roof was not open, so
the roof actually. The crazy thing about the whole roof was the fact that it closed while I was still there, and I had no idea it even closed. I looked up, I was like, oh, when did that happen?
Yeah, it happened in like 2 minutes, where it was.
It's crazy, you know. It only took 2 years after they finished the stadium, almost. I mean, well, a year, but it took them a long time to get that. The roof was the reason that stadium wasn't open earlier, because it was a flipping nightmare. But the fact that it works now is really cool, and because it was cooler, I think it felt better in the stadium. That being said, a lot of people had problems with the Falcons game 2 weeks ago because of the sun, and a lot of people had that same problem at the Atlanta United game this past week because the sun is just beating in your face.
I think in the 105 section.
Yeah, to the right of the supporter section for sure. It was just very difficult for those people. And I think maybe for night games going forward, or for games that might be later in the afternoon, they have a 5 o'clock kick where it's going to be going down behind the stadium, that might be the best time to have it open, just because you don't want people to go to the game and then not be able to see anything because of the sun. As cool as it is, and I am a big fan of that roof being open, because I think it looks incredible when it is, but I don't want it to be at the expense of fans and their viewing and their enjoyment of the match. So, but I mean, on the whole, just it's impressive just to see how many people are going to these games. I was in the team store on Saturday, and these guys were in from Madrid, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to the Monday Night Football game." I was like, "Pause. What are you doing tomorrow? If you want to see a real game with great fans, you need to go to the Atlanta United game." I was explaining to them, how the fan culture is here, and then we had a customer come in from Mexico. It was, my Spanish is terrible, but they were, explaining basically how, insane it is, how many fans we have. And these guys, one of them was a season ticket holder for Atletico Madrid. He was blown away. He had no idea the support was that big for, soccer here. And, to see all these different people from all these different walks of life, and so many people who aren't from Atlanta, like myself, who have bought into this team. It's just incredible. I mean, and you just can't say enough good things. And it just makes me proud that this city has taken to Atlanta United so much. And to break these attendance records, and again, it'll keep going. And, the more successful we have, it might be where the whole stadium's open every game in the future. Who knows? I mean, if that happens, we're going to be one of the top supported clubs in the world. And as of right now, in terms of attendance, we are one of the most supported clubs in the world as far as in-game attendance goes, which is incredible for a team that is not even, finished its second year of playing. So, it's all I can say to, wrap up this little, rant in a sense is just give yourself a pat on the back and a clap, because not only is, the Atlanta United fan base for, our channel, it's just in general, you guys are incredible. And for me to see that's happening here, it's just amazing.
Agreed. I mean, I echo all those sentiments. I mean, it's, I think, you know, another person or a couple people that echo those sentiments as well were Copa 90's Eli Mangum and Michael Timsey, as he's known. And
Elliot has seen a lot of games. If you've not been on Copa 90, he has been to some of the most intense matches around the world. I mean, he's seen Red Star Partizan. You know, he's been to some of the biggest derbies, some of the biggest stadiums, the most passionately supported clubs, and they had nothing but good things to say about what we're doing here, which says a lot. I mean, they were blown away. The best atmosphere they've seen in America so far. So take that for what you will, but good job, Five Stripes. That's all I can say.
Absolutely, for sure. But let's move on into the news where the big shoe dropped.
Only one thing to start with, huh?
Definitely has to be that Tata Martino is going to depart at the end of the season, and that will be whenever our playoff run is over. And I mean, after 2 years, I mean, or 2+ years essentially, when he came in September of 2016. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's madness for sure. It's been, I think, a fantastic 2 years, and I think what needs to be said is, you know, he's built a foundation from pretty much nothing, from the ground zero, essentially, especially with Mercedes-Benz, and he's built it into a successful and really admirable club that is kind of envied around the world and is really well supported. I mean, it's just insane what he's done for us.
I mean, to think in 2 years, he, like you said, he went from a club that didn't have a stadium, didn't have a training ground, didn't have any of these facilities, players, whatever. Well, there were a few players signed on already, but now the people who are being rumored to replace him, one is the current manager of Boca Juniors, which, if we're being honest, is the biggest club job in the Western Hemisphere, because, I mean, the biggest league is probably going to be the Argentinian league, and you have River and you have Boca, and Boca is a massive club, and their manager is being rumored to come take this job. That is massive. Mind you, that might not be the case, but when you see the people being linked to it, you see what it is, and that could not be the case if it wasn't for Tata Martino.
Absolutely.
I mean, he agreed with Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra about the vision. You know, they had the same ideas of what they wanted to do, and he's come in and he's put it in place, and you see that. And I think, you know, we won't really know the full extent of what he's done for this club until years down the road, but I agree with you 100% when you say he's come in and he's put down a foundation for what we want this club to be, and, you know, we'll see what the future holds, but, you know, hopefully it continues to grow in the direction we think it will, and, you know, I think it, you know, personally, that it will.
Yeah, I think it's exciting times ahead because, yeah, we've, you know, qualified for CONCACAF Champions League. We you know, we have a chance at a couple trophies at the end of this season, you know, with Supporters Shield, with MLS Cup, and so, you know, there's still things that we are fighting for and are playing for, and so, I mean, I personally am very, very stoked, but, you know, why did it happen at this time? I mean, it's very interesting. I think after the Chicago Fire match, I think the front office essentially were informed that, Tata Martino told them that he wasn't going to stay. And so that gave them kind of the, they had to turn the wheels and, you know, figure out when the best time to announce this was. And I think in between, pretty early in the week before the Toronto match, which is the last match of the season, pretty important match because, you know, it pretty much decides the Supporters Shield. I'm understating that just a little bit. But, and, you know, I think try to ease the minds of, you know, the players and everybody being asked questions about Tata Martino. And plus, you know, leading up into this week, it was hot and heavy with all the Mexico rumors and links. It got pretty crazy. I mean, it was pretty much dominating the.
It was daily. I mean, it was multiple times daily.
Yeah, which I'm sure
has to affect the players as well.
Yeah, it has to affect the players, and yeah, like you were saying earlier, it probably did affect the performance a little bit. But in terms of like, you know, I think the time frame, I think it's pretty brilliant actually. You know, you get ahead of, you know, all that. The news leaking out, and you pretty much give the players something to fight for and play for if they needed anything to fight for and play for anyway. But I mean, I think this can galvanize and really make sure that, oh yeah, like tomorrow is not promised. We have to play for not only, you know, the city, the club, the fans, but Tata Martino,
the manager that brought most of them here. I mean, Miguel Almiron in particular came to Atlanta United because of Tata Martino.
I have a bone to pick with maybe like how much influence he has with the players being brought here. Yes, a lot of the Argentinian players that he brought. Yes, but even like a Tito Villalba, he was brought in before Tata came in. I think a lot of people have some qualms like, oh, are we gonna be able to bring in more Argentinian players?
Definitely sounds like that with the Pity Martinez rumors saying, look, even if Tata is not, and there's, as the club officials had to have an idea of this, before they're going into these negotiations, but they're doing it anyway. It's like they're bringing in talent anyway, and you have such a strong core here, especially of players from Argentina, that it does not depend on the manager. The manager does not make the club. No one is bigger than the club, even as far as Tata Martino is concerned. So
they're going to be interested, of course.
Absolutely.
Who is brought in and what type of style is being implemented, but in terms of the ethos of the club, I mean, we're going to be an attacking style club where we're not going to be kind of a sit back and defensive Jose Mourinho type. He's shown what can be done here, especially for a player. And players can now know that they can come here, feel comfortable here, and they'll have contacts that can say, yeah, Atlanta's amazing. You can come be in front of these fans, have the best facilities, be safe, in a city, and then play your game, play an attacking game that'll suit you and help you make that next step on to move to Europe if you want to. Because ideally, we want to keep getting these players that come in, and I know it sucks because, they come and then we lose them, but if we have players that are coming here, succeeding, and then moving to Europe, that's saying that we're doing well, because they're not going to be making that move unless they're doing well here. And if we have a collection of players doing well here, that means the club is doing well. And Tata he's like you said, he set that foundation. He's shown what can be done, and players now know that this can be a really important club in their career for them. Yeah.
So, it's awful. It's frustrating. It's something that I think we're going to have to get used to as fans, though. For a lot of people, this is the first football club they've supported, and they're not used to having upheaval because, it's only year 2. It's something we're going to have to kind of get used to, not just with players, because Miguel Almiron's going to leave. Eventually, Joseph Martinez will leave. These players will all leave. We have to get used to that. And especially if you have a manager come in, and if they're a younger manager, which at some point in time I'd like to see us do, if they come in and do well, they're probably not going to stick around because there's bigger clubs out there. As much as we want to think Atlanta United is a big club, it's a Major League Soccer club. Everyone wants to go play in Europe. They want to play in the Champions League, the UEFA Champions League. That's the goal for almost everyone in football. So we have to understand our place in the sport. And we're going to have times that it's going to really stink when someone moves on. But that's the life of a fan, of really anyone. For me, I'm an unabashed Manchester United supporter. Everyone knows that. Today stunk. But it did not compare to the day when I turned on my phone and my first notification is saying Sir Alex Ferguson retiring. That was a day that was awful. Because ever since then, my life has been terrible as a football supporter. But the point is that even at the biggest clubs, you have change happen. And it's just something that we have to get used to.
Yeah. And if you're a Chelsea fan, that happens pretty often.
Pretty much all the time.
But if you were an Arsenal fan, that didn't really happen for a long time. But I think every single club goes through this type of...
If you're an Arsenal fan and you see some of the jokes, there was an article today where linking managers off the wall, and you see Arsene Wenger linked. I'd love him if he showed up, but if he showed up and you're an Arsenal fan, you're just like, I cannot escape this man. He's just like one of the ghosts from A Christmas Story. He's just constantly following you, just like, why is he again?
Right. I think he's linked with the PSG front office job,
and linked with the Real Madrid job because it looks like Lopetegui's going to get sacked.
Right, and he's talked about maybe going to Japan and maybe doing national teams.
He said he would like to get back in at the beginning of the year, so who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. And he certainly is a viable candidate, and I don't think most people would be averse to him coming to MLS, but.
It would be kind of a similar mold to Tata Martino and an older manager. That being said, I kind of want to go for... I'd like to see someone who's... whoever it is, and honestly, we've gotten a lot of questions about it. I have no idea because, again, I never would have thought Tata Martino was going to be here in the first place. So I have no idea what tricks the front office has up their sleeve, but I mean, I'd prefer a younger manager who could be here a while.
Yeah, but you know, what was interesting when Tata came was that he contacted us, and so that really is the you know, the interesting part of it. Where, man, I mean, I think he really helped set up something really big to where, you know, some of these kind of guys that are maybe not in a job or even in a job, maybe coming out of the woodwork and, you know, maybe asking about this job because, yeah, it's I think it's a very attractive job, especially I think it's the, you know, best job to take in MLS.
I would agree with that. When it comes to resources and finances, mind you, I think they're going to have competition from LAFC in the future as well because of the city it's in. I think from Miami, when Miami finally does come into the league, I think they're going to, especially with the system and the foundation they're trying to create as a club.
But currently talent-wise,
I mean, I think Atlanta United is that club, and I think that moving forward into the future with, you know, Arthur Blank's, you know, promise basically to continue to be invested into this team, it's going to be one of the biggest and eventually might be the biggest job in the Western Hemisphere, because especially if you see, you know, the rumors of MLS competing in Copa Libertadores, if you can crack that ceiling and you can start competing with these teams in South America and then beating them, I mean, that's going to put you up on, you know, the world stage in a sense, because if you win them, you know, even if you win the CONCACAF Champions League, you compete in the Club World Cup. And mind you, that's not a big competition, but it sees you getting a more international exposure playing against teams from around the rest of the world. Copa Libertadores is, for those who don't know, is, I would say, the second biggest international club competition behind UEFA Champions League. It is incredibly competitive and means the world to everyone in South America and Central America whose clubs compete in that. I would love to see Major League Soccer be a part of that, but to get back to my original point, Atlanta United has the ability to become that big focal point job where people want to come here, where we don't have to go out looking for people, people contact us. And like you said, that started with Tata, and I think because of him doing that, it's kind of paved the road for the future of people saying, I can go there, I can be successful. And also, you don't have to deal with the pressure of certain jobs in other places, because yeah, there's pressure because the fans expect you to win, but at the same time, it's not a Boca. It's not a River Plate. It's not a Club America. Nope. It's not a Tigres. It's not these jobs in Latin America where
huge pressure,
you better win. We want you to win, but there's also a give from the fan base to say, we're going to support you. And I think that's something that's special about Atlanta as well so far in our history.
Yeah, so what is the front office looking for in our next manager? Darren Eales pretty much said that, yeah, we're not wedded to it being anyone from a certain part of the world. We will look at the merits of each and ultimately choose who. We will look at the merits. We will look at the merits of each and ultimately choose someone who is the best fit. Let's see. Okay, and also. And Darren Eales also said that he'd like to have the hire in place before training starts in January, and so, you know, that if we get to MLS Cup to the final, I mean, you know, that pretty much is December 8th, and then if it starts training in mid-January, that's not a lot of time in between, but of course I think they'd be finding people now up until the, you know, if we're still playing, and, you know, announcing the hire whenever our season ends. And so, you know, it's a little bit of time, but it's not the most time, and so hopefully, you know, we do and are able to interview the best possible candidate for the job. But I mean, it really could be anybody at this point.
It's going to be a lot of rumors between now and whenever training starts. So I think brace ourselves for that. Not only do we have player rumors now, like with Pity Martinez, we now have a head coaching vacancy. So I think one of the other things that we need to talk about that isn't maybe in the front of people's minds is the fact that Tata Martino's staff will be gone as well, mostly. I think some of them may stick around, but for the most part, those guys are his guys. So that's an incredible coaching staff that will be moving on as well. So, you know, a lot of the times coaches bring their own coaching staffs, but really successful clubs can sometimes keep their previous coaching staff in place, which can help the manager because those relationships are already formed with the players. So
a little bit of continuity.
Yeah, that'll be interesting as well to see how they solve that going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of implications of Tata Martino leaving, and really it. I feel like it's exciting times ahead because, yeah, I mean, that brings some new blood, maybe some new ideas. Maybe if you had, I don't know, if you did, then I don't know how you would, had any qualms with Tata Martino's tactics.
Substitutions. That's about it.
Maybe there's that. Maybe
Jeff Loretta was in a back three. Yeah, that too.
Maybe practicing penalties. Who knows? But but let's move on into the next piece of news where MLS, they pretty much revealed who was their top shirt sales. And, you know, you see Zlatan at 1.
Yeah, that's
you
not
see
shocking.
Carlos Vela at 2.
Shocking. 2 LA-based players.
Yeah, right. And but you see Miggy at 3, and you also see Wayne Rooney at 4, and then you also see Joseph Martinez at 5.
Joseph is actually
Or Joseph is 3.
Joseph is 3.
And Miggy
Miggy's
is at 5. Okay,
yeah. And Barco rounds out the top 10 and finishing 10th.
Right.
So 3 of the top 10, that's not bad.
Ain't too shabby. And then we also round out with 5 in the top 25 with Nagby at 15th and Tito Villalba at 18th. Yeah.
Selling a lot of shirts.
Yeah, and I think what's good about that is that, yeah, I mean, if you look at that and think about that, really, we're selling a ridiculous amount of shirts that, you know, with the new players even coming in, you know, like Zlatan and even Vela and even Rooney, those are all new guys who, you know, they haven't bought their shirt before. So yeah, okay, it's gonna.
We've already had a season of like Joseph and Miggy.
Yeah, and
Tito.
it's still high up there. Oh man.
We really sell a lot of merchandise, and I can speak to that specifically.
Yeah, and so
they don't even take into account the number of like custom jerseys that we do as well, which is incredible because the number of people that come in and get you know, Martinez or Villalba, even a lot of Gressel and stuff. I'm surprised he's not up there with the number, but I mean they don't take that into account. But it's like there are so many jerseys that have those guys' names on the back of them. Yeah. It's incredible. Like the shirt sales are ridiculous. But I mean that just goes back to our fan base and them being so passionate.
Yeah, agreed. And may continue. And speaking of our fan base and kind of a super fan, Archie Eversole, the hip hop artist, he had his song "United We Conquer" in what was called the Hype Studio in the Fan Village, and we'll show you the video really quick. I mean, it's insane. Like, this thing looks awesome. I'm kind of regretting that I didn't hop in there and give a little dance.
Especially with your Prince outfit on.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. But I got there a little late. But, you know, if you saw the fan cams, yeah, you saw my ridiculous outfit.
He even had the basketball, for those who know the sketch. Imagine me standing there trying to pay attention to this guy. It's not just that he's got the full ensemble going on. It was so difficult to not just lose my mind because it's just, I just can't. If you haven't seen the sketch, just do yourself a favor and just
Google
go watch Chappelle Show.
Yeah.
You probably missed it if you're a younger audience.
It's gold, though. It's still funny.
Key and Peele did his show. He said that in his stand-up. You thought Key and Peele was funny? Chappelle Show was that show. He was fantastic. Oh, there's just so much. You fully killed me with that outfit. But, man of his word, lived up to his bet.
I did it. But, yeah, so let's move on into the rumors of the week, which there were plenty. I mean, oh, man. But, yeah, of course, you know, with Tata Martino, he's leaving at the end of the season. You had the rumors of him going to Mexico, and those were hot and heavy, and there was a report that it was $4 million that he was being offered, a report that it was $2.3 million. Whatever it is, I mean, him being tipped to go there, it's pretty strong right now.
I think that's where he can end up, for being honest.
Probably, but of course it's not probably going to be confirmed until our season ends, and so those rumors probably will get even heavier, and you know, we'll find out essentially. But I'm sure a lot of people that our U.S. men's national team fans are very upset. I mean, if that is the case, I mean, if he hasn't even been interviewed, it's pretty damning on the U.S. staff.
That's why I'm not even a fan sometimes of the USMNT. It's just such a night. I mean, they don't even have a head coach, and they had the whole thing fiasco was over a year ago, so it's like, meh. At this point, I just.
And the rumors is that, you know, they're not, you know, looking at anybody that doesn't speak English, and I think if you're...
That's pretty asinine coming from a country that lost to Trinidad and Tobago, but whatever. I mean, we're super elite. We should be arrogant about who we hire. Just get someone who can freaking make us not terrible, and get, you know, all those Toronto players out of the team because they suck too.
But yeah, and so you know, there are rumors with coaches coming in. The big one this week was that it was Guillermo Barros Esqueloto of Boca Juniors, and he had previously you know, played for Columbus Crew and won MVP, won some titles with them. He's coached Boca Juniors to a couple titles with them. Yes, it looks good on the surface. There are reports out there saying, you know, maybe he's not as good as it seems. He might not be the best fit in terms of maybe his tactics aren't as strong, and that it would be a big drop off from Tata Martino.
He was actually he was originally given a job in Italy, but ended up not getting that job because he didn't have his coaching badges. So that's kind of a big deal in a sense that he hasn't completed any formal education when it comes to managing. And some people might think, oh, well, he was a player, he played well, whatever. Management and being a player are very, very different. Just because you were a good player does not mean you will be a good manager. And sometimes people who didn't even play, Jose Mourinho type player, you know, he never played, but he became a very good manager. Now, debatable, but he hasn't done anything. And there's a lot to know about management and how to function as a manager in a club that you just don't learn from being a player. So lacking that, kind of concerning. Some people have said he hasn't gotten as much out of this Boca side as he should have because of how expensively assembled it is, and it is a very good side. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to be said there. I'm not sure. I trust the front office will do their due diligence, and I don't think they would go and appoint someone who didn't have the experience, you know, especially once they sat down with them and talked with them. I trust both Darren Niels and Carlos Bocanegra to make the correct decision on that. We'll just have to see what that is.
Right. And reports were saying that essentially Tata Martino kept Atlanta abreast of his situation, and that you know, the negotiations with Esqueloto or Barros Esqueloto, you know, had already begun, and so that's very interesting. We'll see if we actually believe those rumors or not, but you know, how far those rumors are and how far they've gone in terms of the negotiations, we'll see. Of course, though, yeah, Barros Esqueloto is still employed by Boca Juniors, and so.
And they have got some big games happening. Well, I believe they're playing in a semifinal of the Copa Libertadores, as we talked about before, right now. And for those people in Buenos Aires, that is a big deal.
That is huge.
Especially the River Plate on the other side.
Right. And especially, you know, one of those players that's playing for River Plate is Pity Martinez. And yeah, I mean, you know, he was linked to us. And it's a 17.2 million apparent release clause that we've triggered. But then it came out that you know, the River Plate VP was saying, yeah, I mean, nothing's been triggered yet. There have been kind of negotiations. There may be a verbal agreement, maybe, because
I think in this case where there's smoke, there's fire. There's been a lot of reporting, especially reporting that has been reliable in the past as far as transfers from that area of the world to Atlanta United are concerned. I think it's very much something that can happen and maybe will happen, but that being said, nothing is signed, and it would be difficult to do so, A, because he's still involved in some big games for River Plate. Atlanta United still have a season going on, and also he would be a designated player, of which there are currently 3 at the club.
Right.
That being said, I think our next rumor will kind of lead into this. Someone has to go if he's going to come in.
Right.
And as the rumors keep pointing out, that's more than likely going to be Miguel Almiron.
Yeah, right. And Miguel Almiron, well, if he was still at the club and Pity Martinez was signed, then it becomes very interesting leverage-wise. I don't think we have it. And so that becomes, yeah, Miguel Almiron has to go before Pity Martinez comes.
And I think it'll definitely be the case of the money we get from this will go to the money that we spend on that.
Right. And so Miguel Almiron was linked with West Ham United at TYC Sports, a pretty reputable source, but they're, you know, they just didn't really mention any numbers. They didn't mention anything of
this is kind of West
substance,
Ham.
Really. Yeah.
And West Ham was linked to him before back in the summer, but that was by The Sun, which if you watched last week, you know is a absolute rag of a newspaper that cannot be trusted for literally anything.
Right. But yeah, but they're saying that essentially, you know, we'll take the money that we gain from selling Miguel Almiron and put it into Pity Martinez. You know, we'll see. But I think him going to West Ham, it's kind of a very foobar situation at West Ham right now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wish that upon him, but
I think I said when we talked about this from before back in the summer that I wouldn't wish West Ham upon someone that I absolutely despise, much less a player that I admire like Miguel Almiron.
Yeah.
I think from a money side for Atlanta United, we probably could get the money because West Ham are absolutely splashing cash right now to try and stay up. West Ham is an absolute nightmare, like you alluded to. Ever since they moved to the London Stadium from the Boleyn Ground in Upton Park, things have been an absolute mare for them.
Yep.
That stadium has no soul. Their fans are now kind of been displaced from their home in a sense of where they've always been to this new place. The fans hate the owners. They had a pitch invasion last year saying how much they hated the owners, but they're spending a lot of money. So I think Atlanta could get the money they're looking for out of West Ham. That being said, I don't know if it's a beneficial situation for Miguel Almiron to go into because I don't know where he would play for them. I don't know what the future of that club is. I think they will stay up in the Premier League, but they're very much a team that buys and sells players, and players don't have a lot of time to settle there. I don't know.
Except for Mark Nobles.
Yeah, except for Mark Noble, but he's been there for ages. But or Andy Carroll, but he's mostly there because he's hurt. So they just can't get rid of his wages. But I don't know. It's a team. It's a rumor. I think we said before there's going to be a lot more. I think England's a destination where Atlanta have the leverage in a sense to get the most money because we know those clubs have money. Whereas opposed to other leagues like anyone in Spain or Germany or France or Italy, they don't have nearly the TV money that the Premier League has. I mean, you have to think the last place team in the Premier League is getting more money than almost every team in the rest of Europe, minus the big boys being the Juventus, the Bayerns, the Reals, the Barças. Even Leicester City made more money last season than Atletico Madrid. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where the money is right now. So I think that's where Miguel Almiron will eventually end up, at least if, Atlanta wants to get the dollar amount that they want to get.
Right, agreed. And moving into the injury report, we saw that Greg Garza was in the 18. Congratulations, he's back, and but unfortunately he didn't get any minutes. But a lot of people actually would have wanted to see him maybe get like 45 or something, 15, something. But it is what it is. I think it's good to be a little bit risk averse with a player that's just coming back, but it's a shoulder injury, so it's not really that bad in terms of fitness wise. He's probably been keeping fit in that sense, but you've seen probably the Miggy Rocky-esque videos of him coming back, and he's running or jogging a little bit again. So that's at least good. I don't think, though, pretty much Tata Martino's said that, Miggy playing against Toronto on Sunday, probably not going to happen. So we're really going to see him in playoffs, and hopefully, that's a good bit of time. Hopefully we have some inter-team scrimmages or something to really keep us fit and keep him sharp. But we also have Tito Villalba's status. It's kind of unknown. Of course, he had that thigh injury at Paraguay's training sessions, and they haven't really trained this week yet, apparently, and so nothing has come out. So, and then you have Vasquez and Romario Williams. They weren't in the 18. If you notice, that's why Lagos Kunga came in. Because they had both minor injuries, and so we'll see if they come back for the Toronto FC match. But it's a wait and see thing at this time.
That being said, there's kind of a guy ahead of him that plays every single minute. So
It's and it hates being taken off. So
it hates being subbed off. But moving on from that, guys, we'll get into the standings, and there is one match left to be played, unless for some reason you're Real Salt Lake, you've already played all 34, which is weird. But that being said, one match left. We are 1 point ahead of New York Red Bull. We sit on 69, they sit on 68. Things are pretty clear. Win, and you win Supporter Shield. Don't win, not looking great. It gets dicey. Then you gotta really start hoping that Orlando City does something for you. And as we said before, I'm not really counting that chicken at all. Right. That being said, if for some reason New York Red Bull were to draw, if Atlanta United draw, we win. If we lose and they draw, then it gets interesting because it would go past, it depend on by how much we lost by, because it would get into goal difference, and then it gets kind of muddled. Honestly, things are pretty straightforward. Win, and you're good. Lose, draw, then it's up in the air. Interesting things are happening at the bottom end when it comes to the playoffs, though, because a team that we all pretty much had pegged on to finish in the playoff spots, Columbus Crew, sit in 6th now, and they have a chance of actually being knocked out of the playoff spots, which should be pretty surprising considering they've been there or thereabouts all season. Meanwhile, DC United have completed their incredible turnaround. Yeah, surging DC United have completed their incredible turnaround and have secured a playoff spot, and depending on how results go this weekend, could finish as high as 3rd, which could be rather useful if they end up having to play a Red Bull in the semifinals, because right now I would actually much rather play a DC than a Red Bull, and I'd rather those two play themselves to figure it out, because like you said, DC is absolutely on fire. If you look at the table, they have only scored 9 less goals than Atlanta United, and we lead the league. We scored 69. They've scored 60, and I feel like all of them have been scored in the last 2 months since Wayne Rooney showed up. I mean, that team is absolutely on fire offensively. They just, you know, they can go with the best of them. But it's looking very well. It's not looking. It's you have 5 spots secured. You have Atlanta United and Red Bull are going to have those first round buys. After that, the spots are very undecided between NYCFC, Columbus Crew, who may or may not be in there, Philadelphia Union, who are, and DC United. So things are getting pretty interesting, not just at the top of the table for who's going to win Supporter Shield, but who's going to finish in which playoff spot where. Yeah, things are pretty crazy in the East.
Yeah, it makes for a very, very interesting decision day. But essentially, though, yeah, I mean, even if we break the points record.
Because if we draw, we could finish on 70, break the points record. Yeah, but if Red Bull win, they will break the points record and finish a point ahead of us. And they'll have 2 points. You'll shatter the record that was set last year. 2 people in one, or 2 teams in one season, and one of them doesn't even win the Supporter Shield. That would be insane. Yeah. But it also speaks to the improving quality of the league right now.
Yeah, agreed. And maybe how bad the actual lowest teams are.
Yeah, so those teams out at the bottom are really bad. We know who we're talking about here.
Yes. But yeah, and so let's move on into our mailbag. And you guys send in these questions through Instagram story. Continue to do that, and your question may be answered in the future. But first question comes from Chris Martinez 14. He asks, "What happens to Carlton if we get Pity Martinez?"
Nothing actually. I think it'll be a very similar scenario to what you have right now. In the scenario of getting Pity Martinez, I think you're assuming Miguel Almiron leaves. I think what we saw in the 60-plus minutes from Carlton this past weekend is he has some great ideas, and he's almost there, but he's just not there yet. He's still a very young kid. He's a teenager. I think he'll play a lot more at the USL level next season consistently. I think when he gets these minutes at the MLS level, he's improving every single time, but he's not there yet. I would much prefer to have an established quality player of Pity Martinez's caliber playing week in and week out, with Carlton to continue to come in and get those sub appearances, get those minutes up, and get up, you know, his game. Because I feel like right now he is just off the speed of MLS. He will get there, and you can see that, but he's just not there yet.
Yeah, he's on the cusp, and I think he'll see a lot more 18s in the future. And so there will be a lot more playing time, I think, especially with a new manager. If they maybe like to play the kids a little bit more, we'll see. And
if it's Arsene Wenger, you can guarantee he'll play, pretty much.
But yeah, and so I think, yeah, Carlton will see more minutes. It's just a matter of, you know, where he'll see it. He may be spelling that entire, you know, just midfield forward line type of thing. So next question comes from Ashley Meyer 9. What do you think is the best midfield 3 combination?
Ooh. It also depends on who you want to play in the front 3, though, as well.
Very true.
Because I think if you wanted to be really, really ballsy...
And I think this is current.
Yeah, current. I think if you wanted to be really ballsy, you could put Miggy in there. But right now, I think if we were to play a 4-3-3, I'd rather have Miggy up on the left as an attacker. But I'd have Remedi, Nagbe, and Larinowitz, because you get the balance and that solidity in the middle of the park from Larinowitz, and you get that dynamism, that energy that can press high at the pitch if we decide to do that again with Remedi and Nagbe, who both have their own talents. You know, Remedi just being an absolute bulldog and winning tackles and hounding everyone, and with Nagbe having just the ball skills of, well, we know what he can do with that.
And he's also pretty underrated defensively this season.
He's really improved.
Yeah, he's done a lot of defensive work, and, you know, not really not really committing a lot of fouls, really doing really good work. And I mean,
that midfield 3, especially if you play a front 3 of Miggy, Joseph, and Tito, that formation could really jump up and press a team and not give them anywhere to breathe.
Yeah.
And then you'd have that safety blanket of Larunowitz in behind to clean up anything that gets past them. I think that would be our best 11 in the playoffs if everyone's fit, is to have those three with LGP and Parkhurst at the back, Gretzel or Escobar at right back, and then my personal preference would be Bello at left back. That team has a lot of pace, has a lot of dynamism, and can really take it to some teams.
I think that's maybe the worry for some people is that Julian Gressel maybe misses out, and so where does anybody play? And so, but for me, I think I'm in complete agreement. Yeah, it's Nagbe, it's Rometty, it's Larunowitz. That's in terms of if you're playing 4-3-3, that's really the most dynamic. And
I don't think there's any team in MLS that could have a better midfield or more stable midfield three that offers you pretty much everything you want out of a midfield three than those guys. I mean, when it comes to a solid base in the middle of the park, that's about as good as you're going to get in this league.
And tireless and just work rate.
I mean, Rometty and Nagbe, those two guys just run all over the field for days.
Exactly. But next question comes from Sean Vergara. They ask, why Tata, why? You know, the rumors were that, you know, his family's a little unsettled. They're still in Argentina. There's a little bit of that, and you know, maybe he wants a new challenge. There's
Happy
a bunch of
wife,
reasons.
happy life.
Yeah,
just,
very important stuff.
Yeah,
Very true. Next question comes from Luis360. Do you think Liga MX teams are a big threat to Atlanta United?
Oh yeah. There's a reason that they win the CONCACAF Champions League almost every year.
They're tough.
They're tough. Not to mention, going and playing a team like Club America in the Azteca in Mexico City at altitude is one of the most difficult things that you can do as a professional player. That's why, you know, assuming they're in it, I would love to avoid them at all costs and not have to play them there. Well, the interesting thing about CONCACAF is that the final is also two-legged as well, right? It's just weird. Yeah, there are some really good teams in Liga MX that... yeah, they're a challenge, and if we're not up to our best, they will beat us. So yeah, it's a good league. Don't underestimate them. And I know a lot of people don't have the chance to watch them, and I only see it sparingly, especially when the CONCACAF Champions League is on. They're good sides, and Atlanta by no means is, you know, superior to them at all. Yeah, no.
Next question comes from Nick Lanfear. Who do you think are the best and worst playoff matchups for the Five Stripes? Best, yeah, definitely would be somewhere between, if it happens.
Columbus,
Columbus,
Union.
Philadelphia Union, NYCFC even.
They're not playing well right now.
Yeah.
They have been on a slide.
Bad form, yeah.
I can tell you who worse is. Shocker, Red Bull. I don't want to see them at all. I think earlier off camera before we started filming, you said that they kind of were the Atletico to our Barca in a sense, where they're just a pain in the ass royally, and I don't want to play them. They have our number. Even though DC, I don't like playing them either, especially in the form that they're in. I would much rather try to play a two-legged affair with DC than try to play one with Red Bull, because right now I don't know if we can beat them. They just have our number.
Yeah, and Red Bulls are almost a perfect kind of
foil.
Yeah, perfect foil, but perfect, you know, two-legged team. You know, it's just a very, very tough ask, and I don't want to play them.
Don't want to play them.
Yeah, and DC United would be the second, but it's a little easier because I think we've beaten them at least, and their defense is like kind of shocking sometimes.
I think that if we, with DC, I think that if Atlanta had DC in a conference finals or something like that, if we play them on the road first. If you can get out of there with a draw, especially a scored draw, I make us favorites to win, because if they're attacking us at home, I take that matchup, because we play on a big field. Especially if our team's fit, if they want to come and play open and attacking, especially when we're playing in front of our supporters. Even though we haven't had the best home record this season, in a game like that means that much, I would give us the edge. I don't feel comfortable with Red Bull either here or away. They're just a team I just don't want to see. Especially this season. I think they finally kind of figured themselves out, because they've won supporter shields before, but they've never been like this, especially replacing their manager mid-season. So.
Yeah. Next question comes from Caroline Anderson. She asked, best home game in the 2018 season? I think it's got to be.
There were some frustrating as hell ones. That's for certain.
So it kind of narrows it down for sure. But LAFC with the 5-0 win seems to be one of the top ones, because, well, yeah, we were flattered to deceive a little bit during that match, but we scored 3 goals in like the last 10 minutes, I believe, and really just kind of made that score really flatter us. And I mean, to be an expansion team that yes, they broke the expansion team record for points in a season.
Doesn't matter, we still smacked them when we played
West,
them here.
but yeah.
Yeah, it was in the West, which is terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that one was the most fun because it was just the most improbable to win 5-0.
Yeah, 5-0 is a good scoreline.
Yeah, against a team that scores a lot of goals for one, so we thought it was gonna be a shootout. And then Miles Robinson coming in for LGP, also one of those things where we thought we were gonna ship like a bunch of goals.
Yep.
We didn't, and yeah, I mean, it just really worked out in our favor. I think that's
Maybe that second DC game where Joseph gets a hat trick was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
There wasn't too many fantastic home results this year. This has been a team where I think there's been a few good moments, but they've just kind of gone about their business without being too exciting at any point in time when it comes to just like throwing down a marker of a result, because we always ship a goal. We had a lot of draws at home where it was just like, why? Yeah. But yeah, I'd say LAFC probably, because like you said, 5-0, you smacked the new boys on the block. It felt pretty good.
And that gets us into our question of the day.
And guys, there's been a lot of Tata Martino talk, and frankly, there's no other place to go with the question of the day. And we'll get right to it. If Atlanta United aren't to win any silverware this season, how would you look back on Tata Martino's time as manager of Atlanta United? For me, I think for you as well, it's been pretty good. We've played some really great stuff. I'd love to see him win some silverware on the way out, but if not, I still think he gave us some really good times and set a foundation for the future moving forward. But I'm curious to see what you guys have to say, so get down in the comments below and let us know what you think.
Well guys, that's it for us today. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, share this video because it really does help us a lot, and smash that like button for us. For Tanner McLeod, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.